Hey guys, and welcome back to The Controversial Mom. I'm your host, Emily Jones. A few months ago, we talked about Trump's travel ban, and I really want to focus on how he has expanded that, not just to address travel, but also immigration into the country. There's been a lot that's happened in the past couple of months, and that's really and truly what has sparked Trump to come out guns a-blazing on this topic. So the things that I can remember, because there's so much of it that I forgot a lot. But there have been several arrests over the past couple of months from the FBI or just local authorities regarding, we'll say terrorist attacks in our country. So there was a plot discovered in Detroit, Michigan, really more in the Troy area, right around Halloween. I can't remember the exact details, but I know the FBI arrested several people that were plotting to attack the arsenal in the Detroit area. And then obviously we've had the more recent issue in Washington, D.C., where we had two National Guardsmen shot in the head. Sadly, one of the members actually died. It was a young lady by the name of Sarah Beckstrom. And she was only 20. She was such a young person, full of life, reading the articles about her parents. It's just tragic to see. I mean, it's always sad when we have the loss of an American service member, but when she's 20 and, has her entire life ahead of her, it's just even more gut-wrenching to hear the story. And then there was also another guy, Andrew Wolf, who was 24. He is still fighting for his life. I believe I saw that he did wake up, but still in critical condition considering the gravity of the gunshot wound. And both of these young people were shot by an Afghan national who was 29, I believe. I believe the reports I saw said that he came over when we had the debacle, when we were withdrawing from Afghanistan, and we allowed in thousands of Afghan refugees into our country. Presumably some of them were vetted, but clearly not all of them were. And this guy falls into that latter category. So, like I said, I talked about the travel ban several months ago, but I want to do a little recap on all the things that President Trump has done up until this tragic incident right around Thanksgiving. So, on January 20th, day one, Trump wasted no time. He signed an executive order called Protecting the United States from Foreign Terrorist and Other National Security and Public Safety Threats. It's a very long executive order. I attempted to read it, and quite honestly, it was so long that I just stopped because there was just too much content. But there were two parts in the executive order that are really important to the topic for today. And I want to focus on those specifically because for those of us that are on the right, that are MAGA, that are pro-Trump, whatever label you want to give it, there were two pieces in this executive order that I think really excited us the most about kind of reclaiming our country. So those two parts, the first one, it says, it is the policy of the United States to protect its citizens from aliens who, this is the important part, intend to commit terrorist attacks, threaten our national security, espouse hateful ideologies, or otherwise exploit the immigration laws for malevolent purposes. And then the other part deals with individuals that are already in the country and how they're going to handle that. For those otherwise already present in the United States, this is the part that matters. They do not bear hostile attitudes towards its citizens, culture, that's a big one, government, institution, or founding principles. And they do not advocate for, aid, or support designated foreign terrorist or other threats to the national security of the country. Those are pretty important. Thinking back that he signed that on January 20th, now let's think about all the things that we've uncovered in the past several months, the things that we've experienced or seen playing out in other states. The most recent thing is this massive fraud scandal that's going on in, is it Minnesota, I think, where the Somalian people living in that community have funneled billions of American dollars back to Somalia. That does not align with our culture. That is potentially sending American dollars to terrorist organizations. There's so much with that situation that's in direct conflict with this executive order. Then Trump did a presidential proclamation back in June. I really don't recall why he did that, but he did one. And then that gets us to the more current situation where we have the shootings that took place on November 27th. As a result of that shooting, there were a couple of things that formally and informally that took place. So Trump came out right out the gate and, denounced all of these attacks, talking about how immigration's killing our country, literally killing our citizens, and that he was going to halt asylum from third world countries. That's kind of how he phrased it, third world countries, which he did. And then he directed, and this was an organization I honestly had not heard of before, so that was kind of interesting. I guess I've just heard the shorthand for it, but it's the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So he told them to pause all asylum applications. To give you some indication of how many applications we're talking about here, that's 1.5 million asylum applications. That's asylum applications. That's not people just trying to get into the country through other ways. Asylum applications alone are 1.5 million that they currently have that they have halted. They're no longer dealing with. And it's actually greater than that as this story evolves. So when Trump halted that, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, I'm just going to say Immigration Services, led by a guy named Joseph Edlow. He paused everything. He said, we're not doing anything. We're holding these. We're not even reviewing them right now. We're kind of at a standstill. But on top of the asylum applications just coming to a halt, this is the other really important thing that they're doing that has gotten some media attention, probably not as much as it deserves. They're also conducting a comprehensive re-review of all applications from all migrants from 19 countries, and I've got a short list of those I'll share in a minute, from 19 countries who secured immigration benefits since January 20th, 2021. That's an important date because that was the day that Joe Biden came into office. So essentially, this department is now going back through to re-review all applications received during Joe Biden's administration to ensure that the person was properly vetted. And we all know that they weren't. So it will be mind-blowing, I'm sure, as they start re-reviewing these applications and uncovering who these people really are that we've allowed into our country. So those are the two big things that the media has covered the most because they're somewhat older in what's happened. Then we have Kristi Noem, who's the Homeland Security Secretary. I will be really honest, I was a little nervous about her in the beginning. I just didn't think she would be tough enough. I'll be super superficial here. She's very thin, small lady, and you've got to have a backbone of steel to deal with immigration and all of this stuff. So I was a little nervous having her in that position, but she has proved me wrong. She is a rock star. Absolutely love what she's doing. She takes no grief off anyone. It's amazing to watch her. So she met with Trump recently, and she sees all this stuff firsthand. She sees what's going on at the ICE detention facilities and the protesters, and she sees the thugs that they're arresting in, the Gator Alcatraz. She's seen the worst of the worst. So she has very little patience. Rightfully so. So when she met with Trump to go over this new ban that he's got in place in terms of pausing the asylum applications, she just let Trump have it and said flat out, we need a complete travel ban of all these countries that have been flooding our nation for the past 4 years. And somewhere in there, she listed the country names. I don't have that handy, but she just said it's more than just deporting illegals. It's more than just pausing asylum applications. It is 100%. We have to pause full travel access to and from these countries. She's not playing games. So Trump is considering her full travel ban, which is awesome. That's what we need for our country. And then on top of all that, we have Edlow, who oversees the immigration services. He's also going back through to review green card applications that have been issued to this, again, 19 countries that could potentially grow to 30. to see who we've allowed into our country through that process. So they're very serious about who is in our country. And I'm guessing, I'm kind of reading between the lines here, in some of the stuff that they know that's maybe not quite public yet, it's enough to really give President Trump major concerns, because in a tweet recently, he's actually hinted that he might or is considering stopping all legal immigration to the United States. And here's a interesting piece in him saying that. Charlie Kirk talked about this a lot. That was one of his big things. We have to stop all illegal immigration, and we have to pause and reassess legal immigration into the country. Because what's happening, and most of you already know this, we've allowed so much immigration from all these other countries, whether legal or illegal. They've come in. They've not followed the original principles that I outlined in Trump's executive order in terms of radical ideologies and assimilating into our culture. And they've completely transformed our country away from what it was originally intended to be. And it's happened in a short amount of time. I remember being in school, and we still prayed in school. I still remember when I was in high school, which was 25 years ago, I still remember we had prayer before all football games over the PA system. It wasn't, if you want to do it, go participate in the corner. No. Over the PA system, we still had student-led prayer. And I remember in elementary school, we prayed before school. Not always, but there were days that we did it. I remember having Christmas programs, and we sang Christian songs. We had a nativity scene in the school gymnasium. This wasn't that long ago. But now you can't even say Jesus over the PA system in a school, or you're going to be slapped with a lawsuit. And that's happened because our culture has been destroyed. The culture that our country was founded on of Christian principles. And of course, the church has stayed silent, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Y'all know where I stand on that. But all of this goes back to immigration, legal or illegal. We've allowed so much immigration that we've lost who we are as a country. And thank God we have Trump in office for now, that he's finally pushing back on this. And I do think he's going to be a lot more focused on the implementation this go round. He signed a lot of stuff into law, air quotes, via executive order at the beginning of his term. And I think he assumed, since he had signed it, that it was being implemented. As we've seen, that's not really happening. So I think he's going to be a lot more focused on this topic going forward because of what's happened. He does seem to be shifting away from international topics more domestically now, which I am very thankful for. We definitely need him focused domestically leading into the midterms, because we've got a lot of things that we've got to clean up so that we can maintain the majority in the House and the Senate. Also, y'all know my stance on that, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But I wanted to give a little background on what happened that led us to where we are now, and the gravity of what Trump's really and truly looking at doing, and why it matters so much. It is definitely about saving our country and preserving our culture, but also, for me personally, there's a major focus on this is what the base wants. This is what Trump supporters, MAGA, whatever you want to call us. This is what we voted for, and this is what we want to see. I am hopeful that he will continue to push this policy and others as we get closer to the midterms, and it will help us to maintain our majority in the House and the Senate, and we can actually fully implement Trump's agenda by 2028. That is my hope. That would be my Christmas present, if I can just throw that out there for all the powers that be. That'd be awesome. So that's a kind of recap on where we started back in January to where we are now and what led us to that. So I hope that that was somewhat helpful in helping to frame what's happening in our country and why we really need to be hyper-focused on this, because it is absolutely critical that we get this under control. So thanks for joining, guys. As always, I'll see you next week.